I would like to propose that there are 5 takeaways for us from Tun Razak's life and leadership. It would, of course, be impossible for us to encapsulate the entire life in just one speech. These points, therefore, are what I feel are most important and relevant to our time. The 5 points: be inclusive, nurture talent, be willing to take risks, have big ideas. Once it is thought through, make the difficult decisions. In terms of inclusiveness, Tun Razak believed that a nation could only be great if it provided opportunities to all its sons and daughters. It was essential to him that Malaysia not only have a bright economic future, but it would also emerge as a fairer society. He knew that the country could not prosper without tackling the inequalities which were rife in our country. However, it would be a great disservice to his memory if we were only to regard him as a narrow-minded Malay nationalist. Here was a man, after all, who was loved and respected by people from all walks of life. He was a man who was at ease, both working and socializing with people of all races. The prime beneficiaries of the NEP were the Malays and their community, but ultimately, all Malaysians gained from the growing pie that it created. In these times of growing concerns over the rising cost of living, we must remember that policies must be made with the good of all in mind. Whether in terms of education, cost of living, and even our everyday social interaction, we must remember that we are a multiracial and multi-religious country. No one must be excluded. No one must be ever made to feel that they are not welcome here. That is the way Tun Razak wanted it, and we must continue this if Malaysia is to realize its full potential. Second, Tun Razak listened, especially to the young. A generation of leaders, not only in politics, but also in government, rose under his careful and nurturing guidance. These included men like Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, Tun Abdullah Ahmad Badawi, Tun Musa Hitam, Tengku Razali Hamzah, Tun Ghazali Shafi'i, and my own father, Tun Hussein On, to name just a few. Tun Razak knew how to spot talent, and more importantly, how to encourage it. He did not feel threatened by new ideas or the enthusiasms of youth. Indeed, he embraced it wholeheartedly. I feel it is crucial for Malaysia to rediscover this. Many young Malaysians today feel that their opinions don't matter and the opportunities for them to rise are limited. We must listen to our young. We must make them feel that they are important stakeholders in our country. And at a time when the world is grappling with the rise of extremist groups which prey on the young, like the so-called Islamic State or Daesh, the importance of this cannot be exaggerated. Tun Razak knew how to deal with insurgencies. You can beat the threat militarily, but true victory lies in integrating the society in question. Third, Tun Razak was never afraid to take risks. Let us return to those fateful days of 1974. People today forget what a momentous decision it was for Tun Razak to open relations with China. It was, after all, still regarded to the region and the world with fear and suspicion. Moreover, it was still supporting the remnants of the communist insurgency in our own country. Nevertheless, Tun Razak went to Beijing, and the rest, they say, is history. The first mover advantage that we enjoy with China today could not have come about if he had not been so bold and so decisive. Furthermore, Tun Razak's foreign policy imperatives of striking a balance, of seeking to bring together both East and West, should guide us still today as we seek to navigate the growing superpower rivalry unfolding in our region. Fourth, Tun Razak always had big ideas. He had a can-do attitude. Lesser leaders would have lowered their goals and may have lowered their expectations. Tun Razak, however, wanted to transform Malaysia, and so he worked night and day to bring this about. He never got distracted with trivialities and would never associate himself with mediocre or substandard. Who would have thought, for instance, that Petronas, which was set up by Tun Razak to pioneer Malaysia's oil and gas industry, would one day become a Fortune 500 company? We must not be afraid to think and dream big. We have it within us to create great things if we want it and are willing to work hard for it. As some of his contemporaries here today will no doubt attest to, Tun Razak was willing to burn the midnight oil and traverse every nook and cranny of our land to serve the nation. We too must be as dedicated and tireless in our work. Fifth, and finally, once considered and thought through, Tun Razak was never afraid to make difficult decisions. 1974 was also the year in which electoral democracy was fully restored to Malaysia. Again, that was a weighty decision. It would have been easy for Tun Razak to continue to govern Malaysia absolutely via the National Operations Council, Magaran. However, he chose not to take this route and submitted to the judgment of the voters. They, in turn, expressed loudly and clearly not only their approval of his policies, but also their faith in democracy when they voted BN into power. He never shrunk from difficulties because he knew that Malaysia's future was at stake. Today, we need his courage and willingness to persevere more than ever before. Ladies and gentlemen, at the heart of these 5 points in one single imperative is leadership. Tun Razak was a leader. He included people. He listened. He took risks. He had big ideas. He was not afraid to make difficult decisions. And by doing this, he uplifted Malaysia and set it on the course of greatness. Today, as we begin talking about what Malaysia should be like after 2020, we too need to be more inclusive. We too need to nurture our best talent and take risks. We need to have big ideas, and we must not be afraid to make difficult choices to realize these dreams. We must boldly push ahead, but also not forget the lessons of the past. Much of what made Tun Razak a great leader stemmed from simple common sense. He was rooted in his values. He truly believed in them, and not for the sake of political expediency. Moreover, he led by example. I have already alluded to on his work ethics. By pushing himself hard, he had the credibility to demand the best of those around him.